What is next for the Dallas Mavericks? Who is Cooper Flagg's best NBA comp? And is Isaiah Evans really a first-round pick? Stay tuned to hear my thoughts on this episode of the Locked On NBA Big Board podcast. Big shout out to each and every person that has made the Locked On NBA Big Board podcast your first listen of the day. I'm your host, Rafael Barlowe, and I am flying solo today. And in this episode, I'm going to answer some questions from my inbox, whether it is from my Twitter inbox, messages on the YouTube channel, or even questions people ask me at Dallas Mavericks games. I'm going to address the Dallas Mavericks shortly. But before I get into this episode, I want to let you know about the Locked On newsletter. Check it out at lockedondaily.com. It is your one-stop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. And if you're not subscribed to the YouTube channel, please subscribe, like, share, comment, click the bell so you can be notified every time the Locked On NBA Big Board crew drops an episode, because I'm biased. You've heard me say it before. I'm biased. I think we are your source for daily NBA draft content. All right, let's get down to business. So most of you know I live in Dallas. I attend pretty much all the Dallas Mavericks home games, and I was there on Monday night when Kyrie Irving went down with the injury. I knew it was serious when I saw him get carried to the free throw line, and at that point I was like, he must want to make these free throws and end the season on not necessarily a good note, but to me it was like his final goodbye for the season. And then we got the news earlier on Tuesday morning that he is out for the year with a torn ACL. It is just unfortunate for Dallas Mavericks fans. It's just been a rough season if you are a Dallas Mavericks fan. And at the game, I had people asking me different questions about the draft. And this was before the news was official that Kyrie was out with an ACL injury. But most Mavericks fans knew that even if it wasn't an ACL injury, that he was going to miss a significant amount of time. And the Mavericks just didn't have time for him to be without or to be without Kyrie, considering all the injuries. So with that being said, the question that I got multiple times was, what is next for the Dallas Mavericks, who are now facing the lottery for the second time in 3 years? And so a lot of people have reached out to me over the last few hours, potential targets. I kind of predicted the Derek Lively pick, even though I thought the Mavericks I would have taken him with my own pick, but they ended up making a trade with the Thunder. They ended up acquiring Lively, and he was very good. And so now I've kind of developed a fan base with the Dallas Mavericks fans, because Lively was a guy that a lot of people did not want. I mean, they saw the numbers at like 5.5 points per game and wondered why would he be worth the lottery pick. So with that being said, a lot of questions I've been getting. Who can come in and help the Dallas Mavericks right away next year? And what are the next steps? So with Kyrie being out, I'm guessing he's going to be out 8 to 12 months. Kyrie is a guy that kind of takes his time with recovering from injuries, not a guy that I expect to rush back. So I'm just going to be generous and say I think Kyrie is going to be out until the All-Star break. Now, when the Mavericks made the Luka Doncic trade, they kind of had a window, like a really small window. And this definitely changes things. So they could be looking to either A, use this pick on someone that can come in and help them win now and right away, which means you have to beat the odds, or trade the pick for, the rumor is Kevin Durant. So the first thing I would say to Dallas Mavericks fans, pray. Whoever you believe in, whatever you believe in, you must pray. You have to pray that you beat the lottery odds, because right now I think Dallas is in like the 13th spot. So you need to move up. You need to move way up. Best case scenario, you get Cooper Flagg or Dylan Harper. after that, I don't know who can come in and help you right away and fill in for Kyrie Irving. And it's just a weird situation for the Dallas Mavericks. Just a few months ago, they were in the NBA Finals. Their entire starting five from the NBA Finals is either injured or not playing for the Mavericks. Derek Lively, injured. PJ Washington, injured. Derek Jones in LA with the Clippers. Kyrie Irving, injured. Luka Doncic in LA. That's still weird to me. Every time I watch the Lakers and I see Luka in that yellow uniform, that is weird to me. But anyway, let's talk about the NBA draft. The player that I think the Dallas Mavericks need the most outside of Cooper Flagg would be Dylan Harper. Dylan Harper could come in and provide the Mavericks with an additional ball handler, a guy that could learn under Kyrie, and someone that can get downhill and make plays. One of the, issues that the Mavericks have after the Luka Doncic trade is they just don't have enough playmakers, enough ball handlers. And while Harper is a good passer, I think the Mavericks need another distributor. I mean, they have a lot of guys that either are catch and shoot guys or not really good at setting guys up. And so the Mavericks could use another ball handler, or they could go in another direction. And this is what's interesting is that the Mavericks have 2 picks in this draft as of today. I think they need another big. And the reason I think the Mavericks need another big is because Derek Lively and Daniel Gafford are both vertical lob threats that fit exactly what Luka Doncic prefers. With Luka being gone, who is the Mavericks' best passer? Kyrie's a good passer, but I wouldn't say he's a guy that needs a vertical lob threat. And now with Anthony Davis on the roster, I don't know if you need Gafford, Lively, and Davis without Luka on the roster. So I imagine Gafford could be the most expendable. And so the Mavs could also look into adding a big that can space the floor, maybe post up. I think they definitely need some depth. And I think Gafford could be the one that moves. A guy that they may want to trade down for, who I think would be a really, really good fit, is Stanford's Maxime Raynaud. I'm high on Raynaud. I wrote an article on NBA Big Board, which is my newsletter, about why I really like Raynaud. I had him at number 26 on my Big Board 3.0, and I think that's pretty low on him. 7 foot, skilled, score with both hands around the rim, left hand, right hand, off both shoulders, is spacing the floor, but he is a much, 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 much better athlete than given credit for. I posted a video clip on Twitter of just him attacking closeouts, getting the rebound, going coast to coast. And he's only 22 years old. Well, I shouldn't say that. He's a 22-year-old senior. And so usually seniors don't have a lot of appeal, but he is a late bloomer. Started his college career as a walk-on at Stanford and is now in range to lead the ACC in scoring and rebounding. I don't know if he can catch Marcus Burton in scoring, but he's averaging like 20 points and 11 rebounds per game. And defensively, it was a concern that I had coming into the season, but he's had 8 blocks over his last 3 games. He is an option that I think that they should consider. Let's say they stay in the 13th spot. It may sound crazy, but he is an option they should consider. I also think France's Nolan Traore could be in that range. He was a player that entered the season with top 5 buzz, and it's been an up and down season, but he has turned the corner as of late. He is somewhat of a difficult eval for me because he's really struggled, but if I swap him out with, let's say, any of the top freshman guards in this class, I think they would struggle in France, and I think he would thrive in college basketball depending on the situation. He could be available in that range, but it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting in Dallas to see what is next because the rumors are Nico Harrison, Mavs general manager, likes Kevin Durant. That situation in Phoenix doesn't seem like it's stable. So the higher the Mavs improve their lottery odds, it could give them some options. Phoenix needs picks because if I'm not mistaken, if they end up in the lottery, that pick would go to the Houston Rockets. So if you're a Dallas Mavericks fan, pray. Pray that you win the lottery or come close to winning the lottery. From there, you have options. But I think the Mavericks should address their need for a ball handler. And Dylan Harper is probably the best option the higher you pick. And I think you have to get to number 2 to get Dylan Harper. Jeremiah Fears is a guy that I like. I don't know if he's ready to come in and contribute right away. Yakachonis, I don't think he's ready to contribute right away as far as the Mavericks timeline. Egor Demin, not ready to contribute right away. So, again, pray. Dylan Harper, obviously Cooper Flagg. If not, then you probably have to trade the pick to meet the timeline that Nico Harrison kind of laid out in his only press conference since the Luka Doncic trade. All right, up next, I know that took up the whole segment. Up next, I am going to answer questions about Duke freshman Isaiah Evans. We're going to talk about Cooper Flagg. What is the best comparison? Georgetown freshman Thomas Sorber. What's next for him after being ruled out with a broken foot? Stay tuned. All right, let's talk about our new sponsor, Open Phone. If you are running a small business, that means you are wearing a lot of hats, and I definitely know what that feels like. Your personal phone becomes your business phone, and before you know it, you are juggling customer calls all day and night. And as your team grows, it becomes impossible to manage everything with just your personal number, especially with all these spam calls. Is anybody else getting a ridiculous amount of spam calls? But that's where Open Phone comes in. It is the #1 business phone system, and it is designed to help you keep your work and your personal life separate. For just $15 a month, which is the cost of a cup of coffees, you can get complete transparency and visibility into everything happening with your business phone number. Open Phone works through an app on your phone or computer, and it integrates with tools like HubSpot and hundreds of others. And right now, Open Phone is offering 20% off your first 6 months when you go to openphone.com/LockedOnNBA. That is OPENPHONE.com/LockedOnNBA for $20 off for 6 months. Again, openphone.com/LockedOnNBA. And if you have an existing number, Open Phone will port them over at no extra charge. All right, second segment, let's just get right into the questions. I know I went a little overtime on the first one with the Dallas Mavericks. All right, is Isaiah Evans from Duke a good fit for Charlotte at shooting guard? I think Isaiah Evans would be an excellent fit for Charlotte, depending on the range. He is a 44% shooter from 3. And Charlotte is one of the worst three-point shooting teams in the NBA. What I like about Evans is that entering the season, he seemed like the odd man out. Knepel was the starter. Evans was a very, very highly touted freshman. And he waited his turn. It did not look like he was going to play, but he waited his turn. He was patient and made the most of his opportunities. And when he gets in the game, he's making things happen. I recently had a conversation with a scout, and we talked about Isaiah Evans, and one of the things that he pointed out was he doesn't come in the game being cool. He comes in and gets to work right away. That's something that has kind of made him appealing to a lot of NBA teams, is that in his limited minutes, he's made things happen, which could be similar to the role he may have to play early in his NBA career. He's also a Carolina boy. So I think that he would be a good fit in Charlotte, and he does provide something that they need, which is 3-point shooting. All right, the next question is Jaland Lowe. Will he join your big board one day, as will Max Shulga from VCU? All right, Jaland Lowe, I've seen him on a lot of different big boards, and I don't think he'll make mine. I think he's undersized. He's inefficient. I had this argument with somebody a few weeks ago at a game, and they told me that he was a much, much better shooter than the numbers indicate. Okay, I get it. But he's had back-to-back years of shooting below 40%. Yes, he's a great free throw shooter, a little bit on the small side, can pass. I mean, I like him. I think he's a guy that's going to be in college 4 years. I mean, I think it just probably makes the most financial sense for him to stay in college, because I don't see him getting more than a 2-way contract. And with the value of NIL deals, you can make a lot more money staying in college than you would especially with his level of production, than he would on a two-way deal. So I would ride that wave out maybe next year, but right now I don't have him in my top 75. Then as far as Max Shulga from VCU, I've talked to some people that really like him. I actually talked to someone that believes that he could be a backup point guard in the NBA. He's tough. He fills the stat sheet in multiple ways. He rebounds. He gets passes. He knocks down shots. He's coming off a ridiculously hot February. Check out the last episode we did with Richard Stamen. He named a list of players that he was higher on than the consensus, and Shulga was a player that he was definitely higher on. So Shulga will make my big board, and he's a player that I think is within that range to be drafted. Richard has him getting drafted for sure, but I definitely think he is a player who will hear his name called on draft day. Which day? I'm not sure. All right, the next question is Thomas Sorber, Georgetown freshman center Thomas Sorber. His season-ending foot surgery, will that drop him out of the first round, or will a team still take him there? I think it's all going to depend on the medical results. I haven't really heard anything about it, but I do think it's going to depend on the medical results. Obviously, big men with foot injuries will always be a potential red flag. But if you take that away, Sorber is definitely a first-round pick. He's a player that just kind of burst up on the scene, came out of nowhere. He was not a guy that was on my radar as a one-and-done candidate, but what he's done this year at Georgetown definitely puts him in the first-round range. I just think it's going to depend on the medical results. If it's like a broken metatarsal, I don't know. I mean, the NBA doctors are going to determine that, and I'm sure that when he's at the combine, I mean, they are going to do a lot of studying and analyzing his foot. And it's going to be different this year because if, in years past, maybe an agent would try to withhold some of that information. So like I said, I just think it's going to all depend, and I don't have any information there. But outside of that, he would have definitely been a first-round pick. All right, here's a big question. Tell me, who do you compare Cooper Flagg to? I'm usually not at a loss for words, but in this situation I am. I have no idea who to compare Cooper Flagg to. I know my brother James thinks he could be like Kawhi Leonard. I see shades of a lot of different players in Cooper Flagg. I think his best position in the NBA is at the 4. I just think he's a skilled 4 that can be your role man. And I've talked about this at length in multiple episodes. I think he can be your role man. I think he can be the guy that you put in the middle of the floor to make plays. He can create his own shot. He's actually been better than I thought. He's been better than advertised. But I don't have like a really apples to apples comparison. I could see if someone says he's, a better version of Jalen Johnson. I could see if someone says he's Kawhi Leonard. I mean, he just has been phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal, and so has Duke been. But I don't really have a comparison. There's 2 guys in this draft class that I really struggle finding a comparison for, and that is Cooper Flagg and Colin Murray-Boyles. If you've been listening to the pod or reading my newsletter, I am not the biggest Colin Murray-Boyles fan as far as him being an NBA prospect. I just don't know how it translates as a 6'7" big that is not a floor spacer. There's some people that love him, and I talked to some teams that say he doesn't fit with what they have going on. I think it's going to be interesting. But anyway, this question is about Cooper Flagg. I just don't have a comparison. Coming into the year, I thought maybe he could be Detroit Pistons Blake Griffin. And if you remember, Detroit Pistons Blake Griffin, that first year, he was like 25, 8-5. He played some point power forward. That was what I thought Cooper Flagg could be. I don't know if he's gonna have the same post-ups, but I think he could put up similar numbers in the NBA, plus provide rim protection. But I just don't have like an apples to apples comparison for Cooper Flagg. I do know this much. Years ago, I thought he is Kenyon Martin. I thought he was going to be an athletic play finisher and defender that impacts winning. but he has added so much to his game since I first saw him play, which is expected. But again, I don't have a good comparison for Cooper Flagg. All right, up next, I'm going to answer a few more questions about who is my biggest sleeper. Going to dig a little bit deeper into Nolan Traore. We're going to talk about the Phoenix Suns and the Houston Rockets. All right, biggest sleeper. I kind of mentioned it a little bit in the first segment. Right now, the guy that I'm just probably higher on, and I'm going to plant my flag, and not Cooper Flagg, but I'm going to plant my flag and say I think that this guy is a lot better than the consensus, and it is Maxime Raynaud. Like I mentioned, 20 points, 11 rebounds, within range of leading the ACC in scoring and rebounding. A late bloomer, entered college as a walk-on, started playing late, missed a lot of time as a teenager due to injuries. He's 22, and just for comparison, and this is not a knock on Derek Queen, Maxime Raynaud was born in 2003. Derek Queen, as a freshman, was born in 2004. Yes, late 2004, but you look at Queen and you think of him as a freshman and you think of him having a lot of upside. And if you think he has a lot of upside, then it's hard to say a guy that is a year and a half older doesn't have a lot of upside. And I think that Raynaud is just scratching the surface of his potential. Again, 7-footer, skilled, moves like, I don't even know what to compare. If you just watch him move in the athleticism, I don't know if there's 10 7-footers in the world that can do some of the stuff that he does. And he's been hiding in plain sight. Even though he's in the ACC and he's been productive, a lot of people don't know if he's a first-round pick. I've seen some people say maybe he's like Kelly Olynyk. Well, if he's Kelly Olynyk, then you're talking about a guy that's going to play 15 years in the NBA. If you play 15 years in the NBA, that is pretty much like lottery, because not often do you get 15 or 14 guys in a class that are able to play 14 years. So Maxime Raynaud is probably one of my biggest sleeper. All right, let's go back to France. Talked about this a little bit in the first segment also. Thoughts on Nolan Traore. Again, up and down season. He's been playing better lately. I like the quickness. I like his ability to get to the basket. I have concerns about the shooting. I have concerns about the creativity, the finishing with the left hand. But I also have to consider if he were playing in college basketball, I think he would look a lot better than he does playing in France. But he's been playing better lately. I don't know if he can get back to the range that a lot of people, including myself, had him at coming into the season. But he is a player that I think is a lottery pick, and he could end up rising as we get closer to the draft. All right, next question. The Rockets could end up with the Suns draft pick in this year if it's in the lottery. Who should we take? He's saying we. I guess he's a Houston Rockets fan, but he's saying we like he's suiting up for him. Or is he in the front office? I don't know, because the Rockets have so much depth. I mean, they don't even have a lot of minutes for Cam Whitmore. Or Tari Eason, I think, deserves more minutes. Reed Shepherd just got his first start and his first significant real minutes recently. I think whoever Houston adds, they're going to have an uphill battle for consistent minutes. So I don't know. I mean, there's plenty of options. I guess maybe a backup big. I don't know. I have no idea. I don't even know what they're going to do with Jabari Smith. Like, I saw that Amen Thompson's going to be the starter for the rest of the way, even though I think they're going to need Smith's gravity in the playoffs because of his shooting. But as far as like the Houston Rockets, I mean, they're just a team with a lot of depth, and they have some really, really talented young players that other teams would love to have that they are struggling to find minutes for. All right, next question. Orlando needs scoring. Yes, they do. Any guard out there that can help our offense? Nope. Not right now, unless it's Dylan Harper. I don't see any of the freshman guards that can come in and help Orlando improve their offense. They're like last in the NBA in scoring. Orlando needs a guy like Trae Young. They need someone that can come in and space the floor. They don't necessarily need they don't necessarily need Trae Young to play the same way that he's played with the Hawks, because they have, Banchero. I'm a big Paolo Banchero fan. They have Franz Wagner. They have some wings that can handle the ball. They just need some scoring. Anthony Black is more of a defender distributor. Jalen Suggs is a defender. Cole Anthony is a scorer, but I don't think he's the answer there. So I don't think there is a rookie guard that can come in and help them alleviate some of their scoring issues. But, I mean, they have options. You know, a guy like Jeremiah Fears could be a good long-term option. But that's a tough question. That's a tough question. I think the trade market may be better for Orlando than trying to address their scoring needs in the draft. All right, here's another question. Am I missing something on Egor Demin? He can't shoot! Exclamation, exclamation. Yes, the shooting and aggression are very concerning. The main appeal for Egor is his positional size at 6'9". He is a really, really gifted passer. I've mentioned that to me, in order to maximize your passing, you have to be an aggressive scorer. And if you look at some of the best passers in the NBA, from Luka Doncic, he's going to beat you because you have to pick your poison. Do you let him score? Or if you try to double or trap him, he's going to make the right read. Trae Young, gifted scorer, passer. LeBron James, Nikola Jokic, Alperen Sengun. I mean, you just look at some of the best passers in the NBA, and they are scorers. Steve Nash was a pass first, but he could also score. You know, this isn't like 1983 where, you know, you wanted guys that were just kind of table setters and passers, but I think Egor has to be more aggressive. Really struggled tonight. I mean, I've shared my thoughts that I think he needs to go back to school because the ball handling isn't there, the shooting isn't there. Somebody may take him because of more than likely they'll take him high because of his size and the passing and the upside. But he is a player that just has some really, really glaring weaknesses. So, no, I don't think you're missing anything. But I can see if you really like him and you believe in the potential, I understand that. If you have concerns and you're totally off him and don't think that he is a lottery pick, totally get that also. All right, last two questions. Thoughts on Jase Richardson, Michigan State freshman Jase Richardson, the son of Jason Richardson. He's interesting. I talked to someone, they were just like, he's a gamer, doesn't have a position. He's like a combo guard. I mean, he is super efficient from the floor. He is a player just doesn't miss. Smart, high IQ, active off the ball. What's interesting is he's not nowhere near the athlete his dad was. Doesn't have the same size. Not like a high flyer. But if you look at his efficiency around the rim, it is like incredible. Like at one point, and maybe about a week ago, he was shooting like 72% at the rim. And that's because he has like ridiculous touch on his floater. He can make shots. He's an efficient shooter from three. He can attack closeouts. He can get downhill, but he understands how to avoid the rim protector, understands, you know, sometimes you can't get all the way to the basket, but he's a little on the small side, not really a point guard. I mean, he has multiple games where he may have 0 assists. He may have 1 assist games. So I don't know if he's a point. I've seen someone say maybe he's like a 2025 version of Reed Shepherd. You know, I think that's somewhat valid. But my thoughts on Jase Richardson is he has exceeded expectations. He's put himself in position to be a first-round pick. Definitely not a guy that I thought was a one and done. But some questions I have to ask myself is, does he have more game than he can show? Michigan State and Tom Izzo's system isn't really designed to let guys get loose. So he may be being held back a little bit. So that's going to be something that NBA teams are going to have to really take a deep dive into, really hone in and study his high school film, his AAU film, and see if there's some things that he hasn't been able to show at Michigan State. My concerns are the NBA role. He plays a lot off the ball. Is he someone that is going to be situational? Like, what type of guard do you pair him with in the backcourt? But at the end of the day, he is a gamer, and maybe he's just a guy that you just can't put in a box and say he's a 1 or he's a 2. All right, last question. Is Alex Condon a first-round pick? We're talking about Florida sophomore Alex Condon. I think so. I think he's a guy that could definitely rise in the pre-draft process. He's athletic. He has good touch around the rim with both hands. Definitely needs to bulk up, a little light in the pants, but needs to bulk up and get stronger. But the main appeal for him is his mobility at his size. He can run the floor in transition. He has good feel as a passer. I think he's a good connective passer. Can get downhill and make plays out of DHOs. That is something that NBA teams are really, really valuing, is a guy that you can give the ball to and he can attack out of dribble handoffs. And even when he's attacking, he can finish and he can pass on the move. And you don't really see too many bigs that are able to attack and pass on the move like he can. He finds cutters. I mean, he's got a good feel, processes things pretty quickly. I've seen him make some nice touch passes. Has to improve as a shooter to maximize his potential. But yes, I think that he could be a first-round pick in the 2025 NBA draft. Well, that wraps up this episode. I answered a few questions. I mean, I got like a laundry list of questions, but these are the ones that I kind of cherry-picked for this episode. Stay tuned. We have a lot of topics that we are ready to unleash. March is here. You got conference tournaments coming up. You have the NCAA tournament coming up. So it is about to get real here in the NBA draft world. Again, that wraps up this episode of the Locked On NBA Big Board Podcast. Check out the Locked On newsletter at lockedondaily.com. Again, if you're not subscribed to the YouTube channel, please subscribe. And once again, I am out of here.